Today I'm going to show you how you can build a router table into your table saw. This was inspired by Scott Walsh as he built one, and I saw how much of a use it can be in the shop, so I decided to make one. Let's get to it. The first step to installing a router table into your table saw is to take off the extension wing. Now the extension wing is pretty easy. You just remove the fence bar, and then you undo the screws. It should be pretty simple. Let's get to it. So now I'm going to use this 8/4 piece of cedar that I have. It's live edge, but I'm not going to use it. I'm going to cut the live edge off. I know some people will hate me for that, but this is not live edge walnut, so I'm not going to save the live edge. And this will make our frame. So now I've got all 4 boards milled up, which are nice and flat. I'm going to start ripping them to width. So now I'm going to cross cut all the pieces down using the miter saw. So now that everything is cut down to size, I can start to assemble it. I've got my drill and my driver, and I'm going to be using 2.5-inch deck screws with a black color because it looks fancy with the cedar. So now I'm going to take this piece of scrap MDF, which I'm going to use for the top. I've got a straight edge clamped down. I'm going to square up a couple ends with the circular saw, and then cut it to final size using the table saw. Alright, so I've got the MDF and I've got the frame. Let's hope the MDF fits. Fits the width. Oh, it's a little tight. Perfect. Let's paint the MDF now. Now it's time to paint the MDF. To do this, I'm going to be using this Krylon Satin Black. I've had really good experience with this paint, and I want to see how it does on the wood. I usually use spray paint for metal, but I don't have any roll-on paint meant for wood. So I'm just going to use this spray paint and see how it turns out. So while the paint is drying, I'm going to be using my drill to cut some pocket holes. I've got this Kreg jig and my drill, and this will help me drill some perfectly straight pocket holes to attach the tabletop to. The top is dry, and now I'm going to fit it back. And that looks good. Alright, so now I'm just going to shoot in some brad nails just to hold things in. Now I'll drive in the pocket screws into the holes that I drilled earlier. Now that I've marked out my holes, I'm just going to drill them out. So now that I got all the holes drilled, it's time to put it back in and screw it in place. So I lied about two things. I'm not attaching the table yet because it's the next day and I've finished the table. I ended up using cement stain floor varnish to seal this thing, and it worked out pretty well. I originally was going to use polyacrylic as it's pretty much the same stuff, but it's cheaper, but I ran out on the first half coat. So I had to sand that off and then put the new finish on. The second reason is because I got to attach the router. I got to drill the holes and add the mounting points for the router. I'm going to be using this cobalt router just because of one reason. That's because it has this slot through the opening where you can use a wrench and adjust the height of the router from above. So first step is I'm just going to take the handles off these as they are useless for my needs. I'll take the base and position it where I like it. In this case, I think right here is probably good. Then I'll just see if I can mark the holes onto the wood. I'll just take the screw holes, I already marked them out, and I'll just drill them out. Countersink the screw holes on the other side. I'm going to use a hole saw. A tip with the hole saw that I think everybody should know by now is to drill halfway through on this side, and then go on the other side and drill the other halfway through so that way you don't get any messy tear out. Now it's just getting it installed and screwing it in place. Do I think this project is done? You can call it done here if you like. This is a perfectly functional router table. If you've got the router table and it turns on, you're good, right? Well, I consider myself only about 3/4 of the way done because I want to add a power switch to the outside of this because I don't want to have to reach underneath the table and flip the switch on the router itself. So I went on Amazon and I bought the cheapest switch I can find, which is this, I think $15 magnetic power tool switch. And I also bought some electrical boxes from Home Depot. Now here's the issue that I have. I didn't realize the switch was going to be this deep and it doesn't fit in the electrical box. So I tried to measure on the back side and I hope I got the measurements correct. I don't know if I did. But I'm going to use this oscillating multi-tool to cut it out. And since I don't want to ruin my nice new tabletop surface, I'm just going to put down a piece of scrap wood. In this case, I've got some more MDF that I can use. And I'm just going to start cutting it with my oscillating multi-tool. This isn't the right blade, but it's the only blade I have. It should work fine. Now the switch is done. It's time to focus on the outlet portion, which we need a box, an outlet, a cover plate, and an extension cord. Take your screwdriver and try and pry open the little plastic opening so you get a nice hole to stick your wire in. So next step is to take your extension cord and cut off this end. Oh, I can't return that now. Take your extension cord, measure about 2 feet, and cut it again. Save both ends this time. Now I'm just going to take the wires and strip them. Next, I'm going to use some of these ferrules just so I can get a more secure connection and help strengthen the wire. You just stick the ferrule in like that, and then you crimp it down. And now it's just a simple matter of attaching the wire to the outlet. Now it's just a matter of taking this outlet, this switch, and this extension cord and hooking it all together using your manufacturer's directions. So the reason why I took apart that outlet box is because I need to mount it to here. So I have this piece of 3/4 inch scrap. I'm just going to take it and put it up against the top. I'm going to nail it in place just to thicken the top up a bit. Now I guess our next step is to just add the box in place. I'm going to be using 1 1/4 inch screws to secure it into the wood. So I'm running into a little bit of a standstill. I want to mount the switch right here, but I don't want to have to screw into the metal legs. So I think I'm going to take a piece of this 3/4 inch cedar, same stuff that I was using for the top, and maybe make some sort of a thing to attach it to. I don't know. I'm still winging this, but this is probably going to be specific to each table saw, so I'm just going to play the footage. Now is the moment of truth. Let's see if the switch works. It's done! I'm super happy with it. The router can easily be raised and lowered from the top, which I really like. It's more convenient. The power switch is on the outside for safety and for convenience as well. The table's dead flat, perfect with the table saw as well. And the best part is you can also use the table saw fence as a fence for a router table in case you want to cut grooves with the router table or something like that. That just makes it extra easy. Again, big shout out to Scott Walsh for inspiring me to make this router table. He has one very similar with a Bosch router which has the same mechanism, and after seeing him use his router table and seeing how much of a use it can be in the shop, I decided to make one myself. Anyway, thank you for watching. The number one thing you can do to support this channel is to subscribe. I'm a really small channel right now, and it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe. Also, maybe like and maybe comment if you want to do that as well. I've got an Instagram you can follow, I'm more active there, and I will see you on the next video.